for you. I'm Katherine Ryan. In the news this week, evidence emerges to show why agreeing even the most basic of trade deals has taken Liam Fox such a long time. There's more trouble for Sir Philip Green as police in Monaco spot him riding without a helmet. And as he insists he's telling the truth over the Huawei scandal, Gavin Williamson goes on to deny he knows anything about the RAF's missing jet. On Ian's team tonight is a comedian who won 3 prizes at last year's British Podcast Awards for her podcast all about grief and loss. Although if she hadn't won, I'm sure she'd been able to deal with it. Please welcome Cariad Lloyd. And with Paul tonight is a writer and comedian who stars in a radio sitcom where he plays Satan. Going by his usual style, I think it's safe to say this devil doesn't wear Prada. Please welcome Andy Hamilton. And we start with the bigger stories of the week. Ian and Cariad, take a look at this.
There's Gavin Williamson walking, which is something he's not denying.
And that's a brilliant bit of dramatised leaking.
Yeah. Oh, Helen Mirren's stuck for work. She's... Gavin Williamson has been fired for allegedly leaking secrets, but he swears on his children's life that it wasn't him. And he has been fired by Theresa May, which is unusual because she loves not firing people. She's a big fan of just letting people stay, Chris Grayling.
Normally, you know, if you sacked your defence secretary, it would be 3 volumes of a history book. But with this government, yeah, all right, he's gone.
Theresa May seems so definite that he did it that I'm assuming he didn't.
Apparently, I like that he said that she had a conversation with him and she asked him to resign. Is that right?
Yes.
And then she said, I'm going to give you some time to think about it. That's creepy, isn't it? You're not his mother.
This is the news that Gavin Williamson has been sacked as Secretary of State for Defence over the Huawei leak. As The Guardian put it, Williamson is the first cabinet minister to go for a leak since 1986. How has Williamson responded?
He accused her of ingratitude. He said, I've saved your career twice, as though anyone's going to be grateful for that.
Yeah, that does mean prison, I think, if he admits to that.
I think maybe he did it, he just didn't realise, because he seems very adamant that he did not do it. Yeah. If you're going to swear on your children's life, that's...
Yeah, I don't think we should hold him to that.
But he said it, Andy. Oh. He said it.
Well, it's fine, though. He doesn't have any kids.
So there you go.
Not anymore.
Or he won't. You can see why she might assume it was him. He's quite a difficult man to take seriously.
Yes.
Isn't he? Because he's a bit like sort of Alan Partridge's less charismatic younger brother. I mean, that thing about he kept a tarantula.
Well, he thought he was a Bond villain.
I know.
Without a cat, but with a tarantula.
But it's not really, it's so cliche, it's not really going to unsettle people. A live lobster scuttling across your head.
I think we're getting to the meat of the story now.
That's it.
He's such a laughingstock. I mean, I kept reading in the papers that, you know, he's hotly tipped for as a future Prime Minister, but only by Gavin Williamson.
Yeah.
Do you think he leaked the info, Ian?
Do you know, I can't 100% say, but my guess is he seemed to have spent 12 minutes talking to a Telegraph journalist on the day the meeting happened. I don't know, I'm just guessing. So I don't know.
The other interpretation will be that she's getting a bit... She knows she's going, and I think she's getting... Maybe she's getting a bit demob happy. She's thinking, right, sod this, I'm going to enjoy being Prime Minister. The last few weeks, right, you're fired, get out. Right, I've just given Wales its independence.
Well, Williamson has gone on the offensive and is claiming his total innocence. Are his cabinet colleagues being supportive?
No.
One insider told The Times, who would have thought it was him, apart from everyone who knows him?
There've been some very rude quotes about him, which I can't repeat.
Could you do it as a form of a charade?
The noun will be difficult to do as an... It's because it's anatomical.
Oh, really?
But there was a quote that he was a self-serving
What is that, Andy? I wasn't sure on that
That
trade.
was me chickening out of
Oh,
the
okay.
mime that Paul wants me to do.
Usually it starts off with a book or a film.
Right, what's the mime for organ?
I like to say count, Andy.
Yes.
And he is kind of like a Dracula with that tarantula in his office.
Yes.
He's a self-serving count.
Yes. Yes.
What undermines Williamson's protestations of innocence?
The fact he did it.
Yep, evidence. According to the BBC, Williamson did, by his own admission, have a conversation on the particular day with the journalist who broke the story. I should say, Gavin Williamson still insists he is telling the truth and is not the source of the leak.
That was a good bit from the lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can always tell they're sort of comedy gold, really.
But
I
Ian,
should point out that Mr. Williamson has denied the story.
but Ian, that... You look very like a muppet there. That was great.
For the sake of balance, can I say he privately admitted it? Yeah. One thing is to be said for him is that this is important information to be found out.
Yeah.
Irrespective of who leaked it. So
Yeah,
it might be a very good thing that we know this.
And the story was she was about to give in. Again, to Chinese influence over British business, technology and security. So, you know, I'm all for people leaking stuff, obviously, otherwise they have very little to do.
He could hide out in the Ecuadorian embassy now that it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a room for him.
Once they've cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Don't want to go through there with the UV light, do you?
Well, Gavin Williamson will be remembered for many things as Defense Secretary. He once suggested people in Gibraltar should be armed with paintball guns to deter the Spanish Navy. He once suggested the Army save money by equipping rundown tractors with guns. And he tried to set up his own military medal of gallantry, but had to stop after learning that only the Queen has that power. What will you miss most about Gavin Williamson? For me, it'll be that heroic way which he handled international diplomacy with Russia.
Yeah.
It is absolutely atrocious and outrageous what Russia did in Salisbury. We have responded to that. Frankly, Russia should go away, it should shut up.
Who's jumped into Williamson's still warm cabinet seat?
Penny Mordaunt.
Yes, Penny Mordaunt.
Penny Mordaunt. I wanted Chris Grayling to get it. Because I thought he would expand the Navy with lots of imaginary ships.
She was in the Navy, though, or in the Naval Reserve.
Naval Reserve,
She
yeah.
was. She's the Tory leadership hopeful, Navy reservist and Splash contestant, Penny Mordaunt.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
What was Splash?
Splash was a celebrity show where they just had to dive into
Oh, right.
a pool.
I was offered The Island. Is that Channel 4?
I think so.
Well, Love Island.
No. I would have taken.
Yeah.
Back to Penny Mordaunt.
Yes.
What has Penny Mordaunt's most notable contribution to political discourse been since she's become MP?
Tell us.
It's pretty spicy. In 2014, she was criticized for giving a speech in the Commons.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Which included several sexual innuendos said for a bet.
Yeah.
So a worthy successor. Theresa May is concerned about whether or not there will be a Queen's speech. Now, this is a very complicated political issue,
Yes. Yeah.
which Ian will now explain.
Yes.
But like most of these things, they're just essentially convention. The Queen's speech, you're meant to lay out what your government's going to do, and you can't really just turn up and say, I've no idea. Thank you very much indeed, and then go.
She always has to say, my government is committed to governing for all people. And you can see it in her eyes. She's thinking, if I have to read out this bullshit one more...
What's the analogy that the Culture Secretary, Jeremy Wright, came up with to describe Theresa May's parliamentary position?
Oh, is this something about an acid bath? Was it him who said this?
Yes, he said, the options are like sitting in an acid bath because there are no good options. It's not all bad news for Theresa May. She did finish top in a recent survey. What was that?
Oh, most evasive record for not answering questions, that one.
She is the most evasive Conservative Prime Minister for 40 years. A study at York University analysed the responses of May, Major, Thatcher and Cameron to MPs' interview questions. And it turns out Theresa May answered the fewest. According to the research team, Theresa May has a covert technique of ignoring awkward questions without acknowledging questions have been asked. Let's have a look at an example from last week.
In light of the 1922 decision last night, will you put a date on your departure?
Of course, I listen to the party. What many in the party are saying to me, or what many in the public are saying to me, is actually they want us to focus on delivering Brexit, and that's what I'm doing.
That's a no.
I'm focusing on delivering Brexit.
There's not a lot of enthusiasm for politicians of any kind who are trying to persuade people to vote. Would you like to see how voters are responding in Yorkshire?
Yes, please.
Hello, sorry to disturb you.
I'm in a massive hurry.
OK,
I
can I just leave him
won't for nobody ever again, so don't bother me.
That's why I want to get elected, to change it. I really do.
Yeah, not be voting again for nobody.
Can I leave you my details anyway, in case I've been of help
thank
at
you very
any?
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But he took the leaflet.
Yeah, so there's hope.
Yeah, we don't know what he's using it for.
Who did the Conservatives have working for them in the local elections?
Oh, the Scouts.
Yeah.
This is a scandal. They exploited Bob a Job Week.
No.
Yes, to get the Scouts to deliver leaflets.
Oh.
Which is not Bob a Job Week. You know, I used to do Bob a Job Week.
Yes, right.
Used to clean people's cars,
That's it.
didn't you? And they give you a lot of money because they'd worry you'd scratch it,
Yeah.
you'd go away. But it's a big scandal, and the Scouts, you know, who are non-political.
Yep.
Were you in the Scouts?
No, no, no.
I can remember a couple of my Scout laws.
Yeah, go on then.
A Scout whistles and is cheerful at all times.
Wow.
Yeah, I ruined a lot of funerals.
Political activists are having more success, and after their street protests, Extinction Rebellion spokesperson Claire Farrell was granted interviews with Michael Gove, John McDonnell, and Sadiq Khan this week. How did she describe it?
I think she said it wasn't as shit as I thought it would be.
It's exactly what she said. Less shit than I thought it would be, but only mildly. And if you can say that about life generally, you're doing okay.
Yeah, that's
There aren't many politicians with the charisma and style of Turkmenistan's president, Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov. Do you want to see his live act? Yes?
Yeah.
Was there a horse in the middle of that?
I think this song is about his horse.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a song by he and his grandson about his favorite horse.
Oh, yes. What's the horse's name?
Favorite horse.
They look like a Pet Shop Boys tribute act, didn't they?
Pet Shop tribute act.
On the subject of charm and charisma, would you like to see the charming actor John Rhys Davies showing us how to debate calmly with an opponent?
Yes.
Take a look.
He represents the American people.
No, he doesn't. He lost the popular vote. He lost the popular vote by nearly 3 million votes.
Do you not? Have you ever read Kenneth Arrow and Arrow's theorem? Any system of election has its problems.
Yes, the American one and ours more than most.
I'm going to take... Men are just far too emotional for politics. This is the news that Gavin Williamson has been sacked as Secretary of State for Defense over the Huawei leak. Let's be fair, everyone expected to hear the phrase, "I think you should resign," in Theresa May's office, just not coming from her. According to The Sun, Gavin Williamson keeps a tarantula spider in his office like a James Bond baddie. Ah, yes, no job. Theresa May also needs the Queen's speech to be met with universal approval, so it looks like another writing job for Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Blackrod's gotten really hot. In Lincolnshire, a Scout group leader has resigned after it emerged that 2 Conservative candidates persuaded Boy Scouts to deliver local election leaflets. The Scouts leader's resignation has sent shockwaves through the Scouting community, and it wasn't for the usual reason. Also this week, divisions at the top of the Labour Party between Jeremy Corbyn and Tom Watson led The Sun to show the two men as boxers. That fight could go on a while, especially if they're relying on Diane Abbott to count to 10. Paul and Andy, take a look at this.
Oh, OK, so that's Marks and Spencer's.
They look like ears.
Ears.
Oh, no, right.
He doesn't like them, he's thumbs down, and, oh, that's her third husband. There's a second husband. Percy pigs are in the news because people don't like them anymore. They've changed their colour, taste, flavour, shape, size.
Apparently, they've taken out the gelatin, and that's changed the taste.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's to sort of encourage vegetarians, perhaps?
It was to be ethically responsible and save the planet, but people they say they've ruined them.
Ruined them?
And they're getting very angry.
Have they gone online?
They're really
gone
angry.
online, yeah.
Percy Pigs has managed to suppress their anger because there's anti-anger agent within them, but now they've stopped eating them, they're furious.
And it's going to be, you know, like the Gilets Jaunes movement in Paris, this is going to be worse than that. They're going to be out there.
Yeah. That's what gelatin is, the boiled up bones, skin and tendons.
It's in jelly, isn't it?
It is in jelly, yeah. It's how you get things to, like, be wobbly, basically, yeah.
Well, you're right. This is the news that the Percy Pig has gone vegetarian to a rash of complaints. M&S have tinkered with their
A rasher of complaints? Don't groan. Is there really anyone caring about this?
Piers Morgan was really angry about it.
Right, I'm done.
With a
Case closed. We don't even need to look at the evidence.
Considering
Absolutely clear.
Yeah. Considering he looks like his face is made of ham, you think he'd be relieved. Oh, it does. It's sweaty like a pack of ham.
What can Percy the Pig boast about his success as a brand?
Oh, he's one of the more popular pig-based confectionaries that there are.
Probably the most.
Yeah.
What are your other favourite pig-based confectionaries?
Those candy trotter bars that we used to have as kids. Yeah, just a pig's trotter covered in candy.
It's one of M&S's most popular products and has a Facebook Appreciation Society boasting 250,000 members. But he can't claim the highest accolade for best-selling M&S product ever. That is the M&S Best Ever Steak Pie, which sells 42,000 a day, which is a lot, considering they're handcrafted by artisans in Yorkshire. They're busy in Yorkshire, no wonder they won't vote. Despite the new recipe, Percy the Pig is still unsuitable for vegans.
Oh.
Why is that?
Because they feel sad when they eat the face of things they can't eat.
Do you know any vegans like that?
No, I don't know.
Level 5 vegans.
Level 5 vegan.
They won't eat anything that casts a shadow. Beeswax.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Beeswax.
Beeswax is...
And some people feel bee products are exploitation of
Yeah.
bees who don't choose to have their work used that way.
They don't get consulted. That
a
is a
consent
fair...
Do dogs choose to be guide dogs for the blind?
Yeah, they have to take a test and say, do you want to do it? A lot of them say, no, I'm all right.
You find out quickly about the ones who didn't want the job because they don't keep their owner long.
They lose it, yeah. Oh, yeah, sure, it's the Green Man right now.
Meanwhile, why is Chris Packham doing this?
Somebody has been hanging dead crows outside his house. Is it connected with that?
Yes, Chris Packham was sent crows on his fence, as you say, and a block of wood inscribed with a penis, thought to be a reference to a woodcock. After he successfully changed the law that allows the shooting of birds such as crows and pigeons. So people are upset. Well, the good news is that there are other animal stories in the news this week. So let's have a quick game of whale, hedgehog, parrot, or prawn.
Whale.
How did a beluga whale attract the attention of some Norwegian fishermen this week?
He kept coming up to the boats and talking to them, and he's got a harness on. And they think that he was a beluga whale from a facility where they were training beluga whales.
In St. Petersburg. He
Presumably.
did a hell of a job getting there.
Yes,
he's a whale. I mean, they can go a long way.
But over dry land?
Scientists were led to believe that the whale may have been used by the Russians as a spy because the harness had a fitting for a camera, and written on the buckle of the harness were the words, "Equipment St. Petersburg." Here it is.
They're everywhere. There are a couple of them in Salisbury. Just having a look round, checking out the river.
Yeah.
It did have a camera. Oh, it was sending back Moby Dick pics.
In the early days, they used to strap a photo me booth kiosk to them. And you were encouraged to stick your head through the curtains and pick their own backgrounds.
Well, retired Russian General Viktor Baranets ridiculed the idea that the whale was engaged in spying. We're not idiots. If we were conducting reconnaissance with the help of this animal, how would we have done it? Written a mobile phone number on it to call in case something happens? Obviously not. You've got to record the secret information on its iPod. What James Bond-style headlines did the papers opt for the spying whale story?
Octawhaley.
From Russia with whale.
Oh, that's good.
Spy who blubbered me.
Oh, that's good. The Daily Mail went for license to krill.
Oh, that's better.
The Sun went with license to krill. Oh, okay. While the Daily Mirror opted for license to krill. And then spoiled everything by adding, this sounds like a mission for double blowhole 7. Here's another question.
That's a parrot.
Yes, it's a parrot. Why were zookeepers in Brazil taken aback when they saw their Amazonian parrot, Freddy Krueger?
He's radioactive. He shines in the dark. Look.
This parrot had been stolen, but managed to make his way back to the zoo this week. The parrot had quite an adventurous life even before he was stolen from the zoo. What's happened to him over the past 4 years?
He was Defence Secretary.
According to The Guardian, he's been shot in a gun battle between police and gangsters during a raid on a drug den.
Yeah.
He was then bitten on the leg by a snake and just days later abducted by armed thieves. Who's a lucky boy then? Okay, final question.
It's got to be the hedgehog.
Yeah. How was Pete Doherty pierced by a hedgehog this week?
Oh, I know,
Pete
yeah.
Doherty?
Pete Doherty. He's a musician of a thing called, you know...
The Cardigans, I know.
The Cardigans. His dogs found a hedgehog, and I think he got spiked by the hedgehog, and he had to go to hospital for, like, a infected wound or something. I mean, we always knew needles were going to hurt him in some way.
He rescued a hedgehog from the clutches of his dogs as he took them for a walk and sustained a slight cut which later became infected. Due to his hospital stay, Pete Doherty had to cancel an appearance on Radio 5 Live's Afternoon Edition show. Meanwhile, the hedgehog was absolutely fine and was able to honor his commitment to appear on Ian's rival news show, Good Evening. Pete Doherty has been taken to hospital after he was pricked by a hedgehog in the Kent countryside. To be fair to the hedgehog, he'd been sleeping under that pile of leaves first. Finally, who would like to see a seagull?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Wow! That's so good! Oh, my God! That's brilliant.
Are we sure that's a seagull? It could be a very tall albatross.
Meanwhile, traces of cocaine have been found in shrimps off the coast of Suffolk, and a heavy intake of steroids is being blamed for all the big muscles and tiny cockles. So at the end of that round, 2 points each. Time now for the odd one out round. Paul and Andy, your 4 are Carlsberg, Casanova, Sajid Javid, and fitness bands.
Was there a thing this week about Carlsberg deciding to drop the probably from their famous strapline, probably the best lager in the world?
Is it about boasting? Casanova was a big boaster, wasn't he? He claimed to have slept with many thousands of women. Fitness accoutrements.
Yeah. Otherwise known as Fitbits.
Yeah, that's one. Although other fitness accoutrements are available.
Yeah. The most popular one, though, is Fitbits.
Yeah. They, I think, sometimes exaggerate
yes.
how many steps you think you've run.
Yeah.
Sajid Javid It's got nothing to boast about.
Yeah. So he's the odd one out.
Yeah.
He's the odd one out. Well done.
Yeah.
You're very close. They're all prone to exaggeration, apart from Carlsberg.
It hasn't dropped it, it's added the word not. Probably not the best lager in the world. It's trying to attract people by being modest. This lager it's not that great. Why don't you have it? I'm not sure it's going to work myself. Casanova, I'm rubbish in bed, sleep with me. Sujid, as you correctly pointed out, I'm homosexual. You're kidding. And a Fitbit, what does that do?
It's a fitness band?
Meant to measure your activity, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
How many
how
miles
steps.
you might walk or how many miles you might swim or
Your
fly or...
heartbeat
Was it a surprise to you? Good grief, I've been on a run.
I think it might tell you how many steps you've taken.
So it tells you you've walked up some steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
No,
if
people do need a lot of help now, don't they?
If you're too tired to run, but you want to feel like you're doing exercise, it makes you feel like, you did steps, well done you.
What, just steps? You walked along?
Yes.
You need a device for that, do you?
I don't think
people
we
do.
should have got Ian that one for Christmas. Take it back.
They're upset, Ian.
We would have been
upset.
better off getting him a Casanova. Strap that to your ankle and tell me all about it.
What definitely affected one runner's finish time at the London Marathon this week?
Oh, this is the guy who was dressed as Big Ben. And he got to the finish line, he couldn't get it under the finish line.
It was too
Big
tall.
Ben was too tall.
Oh.
And then he went for a celebratory drink and someone nicked Big Ben. Went missing.
It's an ideal opportunity for a barman to come up and say, "Time, gentlemen, please." Ideal opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, this is very exciting for me because I don't often have an opportunity to be a pedant, but Big Ben is the bell and it's Elizabeth's tower. It was on a citizenship test, so...
Then I'll have to be deported then.
Yeah.
It was 30-year-old Lucas Bates' elaborate costume. Let's have a look.
Like looking at his watch.
Yeah.
Big Ben behind you.
Why have Carlsberg admitted that they don't make the best beer? Well, according to The Independent, falling sales and bad customer feedback have led the Danish brewer to rebrand the beer with the new tagline, "Probably not the best beer in the world, so we changed it." So they've admitted to taking the piss and putting it in a can and selling it. Just how bad was the Carlsberg feedback?
Probably the worst feedback in all the world.
According to The Independent, one drinker said the lager tasted like stale breadsticks, while another compared it to drinking the bathwater your nan died in.
How do they know? How do they know?
She was drinking Carlsberg at the time.
Legendary lover Casanova. Researchers recently revealed that they'd been unable to find evidence of the gonorrhea Casanova claimed to have, suggesting that he had exaggerated the condition to help cement his claim of bedding so many women.
That's quite desperate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a great chat-up line, is it? I've got gonorrhea because I've been with so many
I'm
women.
such a great lover.
Yeah.
I've got gonorrhea, how about it?
How was the research carried out?
Well, they must have dug him up.
Yeah, did they do something?
Presumably.
What did they test?
Counted the rings.
Scientists used acetate film embedded with chemicals to pick up traces of bacteria from one of Casanova's well-fingered books. What has Sajid Javid been accused of exaggerating?
His height, his weight, his shoe size.
Javid has upset people by describing Stapleton Road, the street he grew up on Bristol, as Britain's most dangerous street. I thought that was in Midsummer. Why did Javid think the area he grew up in was so dangerous?
Lots of poverty.
Well, he said that he could have been taken into a life of crime because there were pupils at his school who shoplifted. So it's not exactly Peaky Blinders. What has Begbie the British Bulldog been dramatically exaggerating?
Is he a candidate for UKIP? Have they found some embarrassing tweets that he's been pushing out late at night?
Begbie loves a long walk, so when he realizes he'll be taken home soon, he fakes his own death. Here's Begbie in a good mood. And here he is when he thinks his walk is coming to an end. Wow. They're all prone to exaggeration, apart from Carlsberg, which has now admitted it's not the best lager in the world. Carlsberg created their extra strong beer special brew in honor of Winston Churchill. And after a couple of cans, he was ready to fight anyone. On the beaches, in the car park, wherever you like me. Casanova, born in 1725, claimed to have slept with 122 women, making him the most prolific lover of the 18th century, a title which Mick Jagger then took over for the 19th, 20th, and 21st century. Sajid Javid grew up on Stapleton Road, which has been described as a lawless hellhole full of drug dealers and prostitution. Mr. Javid then escaped to work as a banker in the city, a lawless hellhole full of drug dealers and prostitution. Also this week, Begbie the dog has been exaggerating illness to avoid going home. Begbie's dog walker described him as the Arnold Schwarzenegger of dogs. In that case, just let him off the lead. He'll be back. Ian and Cariad, here are yours. Leeds United, the National Living Statue champions, Bob Dylan, and a policeman from Coventry.
They're footballers. Is that our entire police force? Give us a clue.
Yes.
We do know it, obviously, but we're
Obviously.
just struggling a bit.
It's about people standing still.
Ah.
Standing still. Oh, Bob stands still. That's the thing that he does when he's annoyed.
Really?
Yes, the silver people stand still.
Do the Leeds footballers have a goal celebration in which they freeze?
No, they stood still to let Aston Villa score.
Why? Why?
As an act of sportsmanship, which, for Leeds United, that's a
extraordinary.
first.
Is it the Coventry policeman is moving around a lot? Or, yes, he's moving around more than he should be. He's doing a bit of dancing, he should be just doing traffic duty or something.
Almost. They've all been praised for standing still, apart from a police officer from Coventry who's been criticized for jumping up and down. Why would he be jumping up and down?
He's
Trying
happy.
to get out of Coventry.
He's excited.
It was the trampoline. They were on a drugs raid or something, and
Well, it sounds like it.
he was filmed, yeah, bouncing up and down. There's no actual visual evidence of a trampoline. So maybe he's just got very springy legs. But I think he's been disciplined.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A kangaroo court?
Let's have a look.
See, there's no trampoline in that shot.
Oh, he didn't get back up after that, did he? He could be jumping on the belly of a suspect.
Why has football team Leeds United been praised for standing still?
Oh, I know this one because
Yes. Ian, I think it's Aston Villa, isn't it?
it's quite an interesting act of
Yeah,
sportsmanship.
yeah.
They allowed their opponents, Aston Villa, to kick off and score a goal uncontested, a tactic Scottish football fans are familiar with. One Leeds United player did try to stop Aston Villa scoring, Pontus Jansson. He's a cult figure there. Have you heard the song about him?
No.
It goes, Pontus Jansson's magic, he wears a magic hat, and if you throw a brick at him, he'll head the fucker back.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Here are the living statue champions. This is live footage, it's a video.
That's impressive.
Did the runner-up come as a tree?
Why did Bob Dylan stand still this week?
He does get grumpy these days. I mean, he was always grumpy, but he's got more grumpy.
Well, the singer stopped a concert this week to scold fans for continuously taking pictures and ended up having to hold a pose to make his point. Well, as part of his rant, he said, "We can either play or pose, okay?" Unfortunately, none of the above was not an option. They've all been praised for standing still, apart from a policeman from Coventry who's been criticized for jumping up and down. This week, the Living Statue Championships took place in Stratford-upon-Avon. One of the contestants was a 7-year-old girl, although she was later disqualified when she tested positive for Ritalin. Bob Dylan stood still at a gig to allow fans to take his photo in the hope that they would then leave him to finish his set in peace. After admonishing the public, Bob Dylan stepped backwards and found himself tripped up by a tiny speaker. Now he knows how Theresa May feels. Time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication, Ships Monthly. The magazine's slogan is, "The fun'll never stop." And we start with, man with shed on head, what?
Changed his gender and calls himself Ruth.
Is it?
Seek similar.
The answer is, man with shed on head spotted in Bristol. Here he is.
Oh, I know who that is. That's David Cameron.
He was stopped by the police who wanted to have a word with him, but he pretended not to be in. Next. Man from Del Monte says what?
I'm an illegal immigrant. Man from Del Monte says...
I'm not from Del Monte.
Yeah.
No.
Man from Del Monte says this suit is a bastard to clean.
Man from Del Monte says yes to 6 new container ships.
Oh, ships.
The Filipino crew won't get paid much, but on the plus side, they'll never get scurvy. Next. Burglar what after being mistaken for a pigeon?
Adopted by Chris Packham.
Pan-fried and stuffed with couscous.
Burglar stuck up chimney for several hours after being mistaken for a pigeon. Next. The staggering thing about what is that they just keep getting bigger.
Government incompetence.
Big ships.
Yes.
Oh.
The staggering thing about the world's biggest container ships is that they just keep getting bigger. This is an article from Ships Monthly. The ship editor has a fierce rivalry with the sub-editor.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not paid. There's no need to take that attitude.
Next. Man accused of making worst what in the world?
Ship.
Worst. It's from a German magazine.
Yeah.
Man accused of making the worst fried eggs in the world.
They got panned.
Let's take a look at his appalling culinary efforts.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's
To be
pretty good.
Yeah.
I've made worse.
Why has he got that many beans? That's a breakfast bowl of beans. You need a small ramekin at most.
I love that it's black bacon, black eggs, and Cariad says, too many beans. To be honest, I think Chris Grayling's wife would have preferred flowers and a card on Valentine's Day. Next. What the size of dustbin lids are terrorizing Torquay?
Frisbees, pizzas.
Moths.
Moths.
It's jellyfish. The size of dustbin lids are terrorizing Torquay. The main
Surely
problem...
just the sea part of Torquay. They're not making their way up the high streets, are they?
No, there we go.
Nudging people outside the NatWest Bank. God,
Next. Man from Lancashire spends all day counting baked beans and...
And losing count.
Yeah, and forgetting the number. Man from Lancashire spends all day counting baked beans and he don't register on his Fitbit.
Spends all day counting baked beans, and that's his job, and he gets paid for it, and he's fine.
In a way.
Oh, OK.
This is very surprising. Man from Lancashire spends all day counting baked beans and becomes an internet star. This is John Stitch from Blackburn, whose analysis of tins of beans has turned him into an internet sensation. Let's have a look at one of his posts.
Whoa.
So these are mixed beans, and he's separating them to see exactly how many of each you get.
Yeah, I don't...
So this has become an internet sensation.
On one occasion, John fainted after losing count of his beans. Luckily, though, his wife was on hand to check his pulse for him.
The only bit I don't believe about this story is the words his wife. Who would marry a fuckwit like that?
Oh, he's a real man, and he's going to be watching this as big moment.
They'll be too busy counting beans.
He's counting beans in Lancashire because he can't come down to London to see Paul Merton in the flesh, and he's thinking, wow, my story is going to be on Have I Got News For You. I can't wait to hear what fuckwit.
His wife's already saying the word behind his back.
Why is he counting the beans? Sorry, I missed this bit.
Because people like it, and then
Ian, don't get involved.
Why
Don't get involved, Ian. Oh, no. He's involved.
He's involved now.
He's involved now.
This will be in private eye next month.
Next. Queen Elizabeth planning to return what?
Is it all the gifts from the Sultan of Brunei?
Planning to return to dry dock.
Queen Elizabeth planning to return stolen wealth of India and Africa.
In Halfpennies.
Good job.
It is referring to the ship.
Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth planning to return to Scotland for her annual maintenance. Well, to be fair, she's getting a bit leaky and needs her bottom scraped. This is, of course, an article about the HMS Queen Elizabeth from Ships Monthly, which says Queen Elizabeth will be reunited with sister ship Prince of Wales. Sister, that's a weird family. Next. What night in Barnsley ruined by what?
Being in Barnsley.
Hen night in Barnsley ruined by...
Fox.
Bingo night in Barnsley.
Oh, yeah.
Ruined by a ghost.
Of course!
This is a bingo hall in Barnsley, which is being haunted by a ghost. Shall we have a look?
Yeah.
Yes. Sounds like they got a burglar in their chimney.
Is that the most boring bit of footage we've ever shown on this show?
Where's the ghost meant to be?
In the toilet, by the sounds of it.
So the final scores are Paul and Andy have 4. Ian and Cariad also have 4.
Great.
And I leave you with news that in Parliament, at a crisis meeting on climate change, one delegate suddenly remembers she's left the patio heater on back at home. On a visit to Toyota's manufacturing plant in Derbyshire, Prince Philip enjoys a test drive. And in Westminster, Gavin Williamson holds a press conference to declare that despite being sacked by the Prime Minister, at least he still has his dignity. Good night.
Change the way you see the world. Download the BBC Sounds app and listen to Beyond Today, which has an app for asking the big questions.